This is The Whole Truth, brought to you by the Greenville County Democratic Party. From local city councils and school boards to the South Carolina legislature and the nation, we provide a clear-eyed view of the whole truth surrounding the decisions, the policies, and the politics that have a direct impact on your family, your neighbors, and you. In the episode today, you will get to hear from the one candidate for South Carolina's Commissioner of Agriculture who is far more than adequately qualified to take on this administrative role that ensures our food safety, promotes agricultural business, and regulates commercial measurements. Here now is the third Vice Chair of the Greenville County Democratic Party, Charles Morris.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Whole Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Morris, third Vice Chair of the Greenville County Democratic Party, and we have a wonderful guest with us today, our Democratic nominee for Commissioner of Agriculture, Mr. DeShawn Blanding. DeShawn, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I don't know if there's a more qualified nominee maybe in the country pursuing this position. What brought you from D.C. back home to South Carolina to run for Commissioner of Agriculture?
Yeah, well, initially moving back home was twofold. One was to take care of family. Family is core and critical for me. So my grandmother is in her final stage of dementia, and my sister has cerebral palsy. And so taking care of them was my primary reason for moving back home initially. And then secondly was also wanting to restart our family farm. It's been dormant for 30 years.
Wow.
Or over 30 years since my grandfather passed away. And so really wanting to take care of home and family and continue our agricultural legacy. Commissioner of Agriculture is, for me, another opportunity to serve. Just like farming and family, it's another opportunity of service.
That's, I didn't know all that. That's a pretty incredible story, DeShawn.
Thank you.
What would you say, you've learned the most? Because you've been everywhere. I mean, I've seen you all over the state these last 3 to 4 months, probably 6 months at this point, actually. What have you learned being out on the trail, talking to farmers, talking to people?
One, how beautiful South Carolina is.
Yes.
It's a beautiful state, both in terrain, but also in people. I think at the core of what makes South Carolina a great place are just the really good people in it, from farmers to families, just getting to talk to folks and hearing what their experiences are and how both the struggles and the challenges, but also the opportunities that present themselves.
Right.
I think that's what's probably most excited me about this campaign is getting out there and getting to talk to people and just hearing how resilient people are, because farmers are resilient. That's one thing I can say about farmers. It's a high risk job.
They're tough.
It is very tough.
I don't know if there's a tougher job.
No, I mean, it's actually one of the most dangerous jobs out there. And not only is it dangerous because of the work that you're doing, but also the credit risk, the financial risk that you take in planting seasons and taking credit out to be able to plant and then waiting for harvest it is a process that takes a lot of courage and strength. But at the core of why farmers do what they do, it goes back to what I start off with is they just are here to serve.
Right.
And they love what they do and they love feeding their communities.
And it's probably, most of them are family-owned farms, right?
Exactly.
Well, aside from these giant conglomerates that own huge farms, you have a lot of family-owned farms that have been passed down through generations, right?
Exactly.
Like the farm you're trying to start back up. What are the biggest issues facing farmers in South Carolina?
A few compounding issues that we're hearing. One, because of the situation we're in right now, because of this war that the administration has.
The war that's not a war?
Conflict. They want to use that word. It has driven up the cost of input for our farmers. Fertilizer, fuel, necessary components for farmers to be sustainable, to actually operate their farms. And so that is a number one factor that they're dealing with. On top of that, in South Carolina alone, we have a processing issue. It's our first pillar of our campaign. We have lost a lot of processing in our state, which we have to export.
When you say processing, just expound on that real quick.
So whenever, when we produce our goods, it's whether that's soybean to be processed into biomanufacturing, to be used as biodiesel or whatever other byproduct that comes from that,
Right.
from soybean, from the initial product. Or if it's actually livestock and actually a slaughtering facility.
Okay.
So whatever that process is that happens right after production, we have lost a lot of those facilities, manufacturing facilities, food manufacturing facilities, if you will.
Where'd they go?
A lot of them closed down because they were owned by companies that weren't rooted in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And so you have, like, for example, ADM, which was Archer Daniel Midlands, which closed recently.
Oh, that's a massive conglomerate,
exactly.
Right? Or was.
And they closed a facility in Kershaw, Kershaw County. And so you have facilities are closing down because they aren't rooted in South Carolina. They can, if this doesn't fit their bottom line, they can close down.
Right.
So that's why our big part of our campaign is trying to increase locally grown, sustainably rooted agricultural processing facilities.
Yeah, so because if they're rooted here, they'll stay here.
Exactly.
Those jobs won't be lost. Those rural communities won't be negatively impacted.
Exactly. And a lot of folks have already created processing facilities. A lot of them just need support to stay successful,
right.
Or just need to actually get certified, whether that's state. And there's a big issue with getting federally certified as well. So helping processing facility owners go through the whole certification process is another big part of that.
What's the issue there?
It's a lot of requirements and steps and costly process to get through that.
Money.
Exactly.
Which is another reason I could see why maybe family-owned businesses are not able to do some of these things, and why this conflict has affected people so much. Because ADM can absorb the fuel cost, right? Can a family business absorb that fuel cost? It's probably going to kill them, right?
Exactly.
I heard you talking earlier. We had a little meet and greet here. You mentioned easements a couple of times. Yeah. You mind just kind of quickly explaining what you were talking about when it comes to the easements?
Yeah, so a pillar of our campaign is about protection. One, protecting our food, make sure we have a strong food supply, but also making sure we have working land. And we're losing land by the day. I think it's somewhere around 35, in South Carolina, 35 acres a day is what we're losing. Since 2001, I think we've lost over 200,000 acres of land. And so that is compounding because farmers are selling. One, it's a legacy issue. So a lot of the farmers' children don't want to continue farming.
They don't want to be farmers.
Yeah, well, my family stopped farming, right?
Right.
No, I'm the sixth generation to try to continue the legacy, but for 30 years, we haven't operated a farm.
Right.
And so a lot of those landowners because they have equity in that land, they want to sell. Then someone comes up to them, a developer, or we were talking about data centers earlier.
Yes.
Whatever that buyer or a seller or a buyer may be, they are trying to. The farmers are trying to recoup some of the money that they put into this operation, but a lot of them, again, they don't have a transition process because of the family or otherwise, and so. What easements do, they provide opportunity for us to help farmers. And what easements are is an opportunity for farmers to keep their land in agricultural production in perpetuity, which means forever, right? So you take your land and you sell your development rights to the state or to a nonprofit, and they will then have that land placed into an easement where that land is now can never be bought by a developer. And it will stay used for agricultural reasons only. So
you're selling the rights to the land, but you're narrowly defining what those rights are.
Exactly.
That's an interesting solution. You spend a lot of time advocating, not just advocating, helping policymakers on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. What was that experience like? What did you learn, and how is that going to help you in this role?
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. Being able to help legislators see food and farming not just as business, right, but as a human right. We all have a right to affordable, healthy, quality food. Farmers have a right to be able to have a sustainable business and have the resources to be successful in doing that. And so helping legislators understand that basic right. It was
understand that it is a right.
It is a right, number one. Yeah.
Yes.
And then how do we actually help them stay viable if they're a farmer, or how do we help families be able to purchase food that's affordable and healthy?
Right.
And so my job was to actually sit down, whether that was with the farmer or with the food system leader or with a business owner, or maybe it's been a mayor of a rural town, but just talk with everyday folks and hear about what the issues they're dealing with, and then find solutions to those problems through writing new policies and legislation that would hopefully eventually become law. So my job was to actually write 6 of the 12 sections of the federal farm bill.
Wow.
Right? It's just the largest piece of legislation that guides agriculture, food farming, and agriculture. And so I wrote parts of that bill.
Yeah, I think most people maybe don't understand exactly how laws are written. The senators and Congress people you vote for are not doing much of the writing of the laws, right?
Correct.
They might be, questioning, having meetings, talking to people like DeShawn, but when the nitty gritty is done by
the staffers.
Yeah, that's incredible.
We oftentimes say DC is really ran by 25 to 35 year olds at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But then that's reality, because, our job as staffers, we supported the congressperson, but we also were the ones that were actually taking a lot of those meetings, figuring out the solutions to those problems, and then we'll present that to our boss, who was a legislator.
Right.
And then they would say yes or no if this is something they wanted to champion, if it fits their vision of what they were trying to propose, or if it fit their constituency's needs.
Right.
And they were the final say so, but at the beginning of the process, it started really with us, and we most time actually we give them a decision recommendation, and they just took what our decisions were because they trusted us as staffers.
Well, because you're the experts, right?
Exactly.
Most legislators are probably not agricultural experts. I don't know how many farmers were in Congress, but I can imagine it's not many.
Yeah, I mean, even I was, of course, on the Democratic side, where I was writing part of the Democratic agenda, and I most of the people we worked for, I don't think there was a single farmer.
Wow.
But their constituencies were made up of farmers, so that's what they represented.
Right.
So yeah, we try to take the interests of their constituencies into perspective, but oftentimes they themselves didn't have a clue about the issues. That was our job, to make sure they were informed, whether that's through hearing from the ground or doing the research on the issues ourselves.
How did you get into that work? When you were in college, is that what you wanted to do?
So when I first started college, I changed my major 3 times, as many young folks do.
Typical college experience.
Exactly. I started off environmental studies. My friends called me the tree hugger.
Okay. I love that.
And then I changed from environmental studies. It wasn't rigorous enough, so I became an environmental engineering student, or agricultural engineering student.
That's a flex right there. It wasn't rigorous enough.
I needed something to challenge my brain, and I felt like environmental studies wasn't doing it. But that really opened the door to understanding how important protecting the environment is as agriculturalists. And then how do we actually create the mechanisms to advance agriculture as an engineering student. And then I took a year off from college to be the only national FFA, Future Farmers of America, national officer we've elected from South Carolina since 1967.
Wow.
Distinction that I still...
That's a long time.
Yeah. To be the only national officer, it is a true privilege and honor.
And you were steeped in this.
I have been my whole life.
Future Farmers of America, environmental science wasn't hard enough. Worked on Capitol Hill. Just an unbelievable resume. Honestly, very impressive.
Yeah. And then I wrapped up with a degree in agribusiness.
Gosh.
Yeah, that was more so because I really wanted to study ag economics. When I took that year off from college, I saw that the agricultural sector needed real policy changes, because I realized that's really the root of where a lot of these issues come from, is that we chose, policy is a choice. Every action, every decision we make is a choice, comes from a policy choice. And so I wanted to make those real changes. And so I wanted a degree in ag economics. My school didn't offer that, so agribusiness was the closest thing I could get. And then I got a master's in public policy afterwards while I was working in Congress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back to the environmental tree hugger piece just for a second, how much of the Commissioner of Agriculture's job is to advocate for, sustainable practices and environmentally safe farming practices? Or is that something that has been advocated for in South Carolina?
Traditionally, it has not been, but that's a perspective that I would bring to this role,
right?
Is trying to make sure when we talk about protection, it's protecting our food systems and our food supply. In order to do that, you need to make sure we're also protecting our environment.
Right.
And so I will definitely want to bring that angle into the role. We have not traditionally championed those types of issues. We actually want to, cut regulations on those type of
I don't
things.
know if the conglomerates are as worried about that stuff, but
And I think there's a perspective where like I understand we need to make sure we're not putting more burdens on small farmers who can't absorb those costs.
Which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Because that's who it would hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we also need to be, but a lot of times those aren't the ones who are making the poor decisions that harm the environment.
Right.
It's usually the more consolidated, larger corporate farms that are doing practices that are not sustainable. So yeah, that's definitely something I would love to champion to make sure that we're protecting the environment that we're here to serve.
I've heard you talk before about farmers' mental health.
Yes.
How can the Department of Agriculture support mental health programs for farmers?
Appreciate that question. It's a pillar. It's a part of our campaign. When we talk about partnerships as a pillar, it's working in partnerships with communities and farmers.
Right.
We have a Know Your Neighbor initiative that we would love to see started in our state. Farmers have a very high suicide rate. And the reason being
is financial reasons?
Financially, it's a lot of burdens they carry trying to maintain their operations because it's such a risky business.
Right.
And then in addition to that, it's the legacy of it all. Think about if you're carrying a 6th generation farm and you can't continue to keep the farm going, that's a lot on one person to carry.
Right.
Knowing that they're losing their farm operation.
It feels like a failure, I'm
exactly,
sure. Yeah.
To your family.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of farmers, it's about really knowing the signs for yourself of when you're not mentally well,
Right.
or when you're dealing with depression or anxiety or stress and you need someone to talk to.
Right.
And then secondly, it's also about your community knowing to help like see your friend who's struggling or maybe going through a depressive episode that you may not, so you can know the signs and symptoms.
The signs.
And then thirdly, it's also about having the resources to be able to actually get help.
Right.
Right. A lot of these farmers, some of them don't have health insurance because you're a business owner who are trying to pay staff and maintain your own livelihood. Health insurance is not something that a lot of them can afford.
Right.
So they have to forego that. So how do we make sure they still have access to the resources that are both mental and physical health resources?
No, that's awesome. We have a broader issue of mental health in this country, but just hearing you talk about that, even in a position of Commissioner of Agriculture, that's really cool. Talk about this Know Your Neighbor initiative that you mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah. So for us, that's really just about, as I mentioned, identifying the signs and symptoms of someone's in mental crisis. And so being able to provide resources to local communities, whether that's nonprofits or even just doing awareness campaigns that helps farmers recognize the signs of depression and
Right.
anxiety, and then being able to actually deploy those resources through the Department of Agricultural staff to be able to actually work with local farmers who, a lot of these folks, especially if you look at a local office or have a local office, they're the ones that are interacting with these farmers, and so how do we help them identify signs of someone maybe dealing with depression or, and then also know your neighbor in that helping farmers recognize when another fellow farmer is struggling.
Right.
And what can you do to be a resource? How can you direct them to getting support, getting help? So just being able to, it's more about awareness than anything else of what is mental health and how do we actually recognize when someone we care about and love who's a farmer is struggling.
Yeah. I mean, paying attention, knowing the signs, like you said. I mean, it really can be that simple to save somebody's life. Day one, you got elected.
Yeah.
I don't know what day the Commissioner of Agriculture takes office. I'm sure you take some kind of oath, right? Yeah. What does DeShawn Blanding do on day one as Commissioner of Agriculture?
I think for one of the first things we do is continue what we're doing now is listening. The day one through the first year is all about listening. Of course, we're going to try to make some changes in that process, but really getting into doing more research on what are the issues that we need to be addressing initially from both farmers, from both community leaders, but also more importantly, I think, is from the Department of Agriculture staff. These people have been working in the department, a lot of them for years.
Career staffers,
Career
right?
staffers. And so how do we need to sit down with the career staffers and talk to them on day one of like, hey, what do we need to be doing to make this more effective?
Right.
And actually having that conversation. And then also not just about what we need to be doing better, but also reassuring them that we're here to support you. And so I think that for me is one of the first things is working with staff of the department, because my job as Commissioner of Ag would be the leader of this 200 plus staff department.
That's the staffer background in you.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know the pressures you face as a staffer. So I want to make sure that people know that they have someone here that's in their corner and that's here to support them as their leader. That's
right.
I mean, yes, serving farmers and South Carolinians is a pillar of this job. Right. But the actual function of the job is to run a department. Yep. And the people in the department is made up of people. And so actually, working with those folks in the department who gave their career to serving South Carolinians, right, making sure that they have what they do.
And these are nonpartisan people. This is their job. Yeah. This is their career. Yeah. My last question. What do you want people to know about you, and why should they vote for you?
I appreciate that question. Always narrow it down to three things. Experience.
Which you have plenty of.
I believe I'm the most qualified and experienced candidate in this race. Secondly is about having a plan and ready to take action. We have our plan, but we want to, as I mentioned, listening is important. So we want to make sure that plan is being vetted and
you want to be an elected official that listens to people?
I mean, that's your job, right? Now, how many of us actually do that? Of them actually do that, But I really want to restore the power of government to the hands of the people, and so actually listening to people. And so that's what makes me different. And then lastly, I'm about service over self. That's what this job is about. It's a sacrificial job, to be honest. I've given up my livelihood to be a full-time candidate because I believe in what we're trying to present as a vision for this campaign and the vision for South Carolina agriculture. And so I think between those three things of my professional experience, my plan for the state to get us forward and the vision that we're presenting forward, visit our website, blanding4sc.com, to learn more. And then lastly, as I mentioned, just service. That's what I learned as an FFA'er in high school. Right. Our ag teacher always told us, service is about being an example for others to follow behind. And that is how I try to live my life. That's my leadership philosophy is leadership by doing. FFA in me still appreciates the FFA model, learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve. And that is how I still apply that to my life today. So I think that model of service is key to my role as an elected official, hopefully come November 3rd.
Hopefully and expectedly. That was very powerful. Thank you, DeShawn. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
The Greenville County Democratic Party thanks you for watching or listening. We are thrilled that you are being an active participant in our civic society. But there are many others who still haven't recognized that their participation will make a positive difference. So we ask you to please share this podcast with others you know, especially those outside your politically minded circles. Most of all, we need you with your time, skills, and effort to help engage more like-minded voters in order to make significant change to our government. Find out how to get involved by connecting with us. Visit the GCDP website, www.greenvilledemocrats.com, and look at the upcoming events calendar or sign up on the volunteer page. Keep up with us by following or subscribing at our social media platforms. Search for GVL Dem on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, or Greenville County Democratic on YouTube. Thanks.